Hi everyone, it's Jason from Optimum Consulting again. In this episode 3 of Optimum versus Bad Advice, we're going to be talking about metrics. Now, metrics is one of my favorite topics. I've been in the game of data and measurement and surveys and all sorts of stuff like that for, oh my God, 20 years, when this hair was a little bit thicker, a little bit less grey. And the prevailing advice, okay, so whether we're talking about HR metrics or anything like that, is what gets measured, gets done, or gets improved. Now, this is actually not bad advice, except for the fact that there's some issues and some problems and some secondary and tertiary consequences if you take this law to its absolute letter. And let me explain what I mean by that. I'm going to introduce you to Goodhart's law. So Goodhart was a guy who was an economist. And after studying all sorts of things when it comes to measures of GDP and all sorts of stuff, came up with his own law. When a measure becomes a target, it ceases to be a good measure. Let me repeat. When a measure becomes a target, it ceases to become a good measure. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, let's look at a couple of examples of how that might end up being true. The first one, let's take workplaces, okay? So something which is commonly looked at is engagement scores. So here we are, we've got a boss, okay? And we've got a boss. Of course, you can't have a boss without a team. So a team over here. And the question is, of course, in many organizations is this team engaged? So we need to have a measure. Fair enough, we measure sometimes through surveys, sometimes through other types of metrics, whether people have been away sick, sick leave, all sorts of things, productivity measures. But then in their wisdom one day, the organization decides that they're going to put in place a target. So the measure when it comes to surveys, sounds familiar, a lot of companies do this. Let's have to make sure that your target boss is 85% engaged. You've got to hit 85% engaged. In fact, if you don't, you miss out on your bonus, or if you do, maybe we get a bonus, or whatever the story is. So what's Mr. Boss or Mrs. Boss going to do? Now all of a sudden, rather than just trying to improve something, they've got a game that they can play. How do I get to my bonus? How do I get to this figure? What's that going to introduce? Well, it's going to introduce all sorts of things which is going to be outside of what the organization expected. One example, if I go to my team and I say to them, I'll give you all performance reviews that are excellent, will you make sure that you answer the surveys for me really well? So trading of gifts, if you like, can become a bit of a problem. Does it happen all the time? When a measure becomes a target? Absolutely, it does. Example number 2. We want to increase revenue. Now, revenue targets, sales. I've been part of the sales teams for, again, most of my life. The thing is that we're all looking to increase revenue or increase gross margin or increase recurring revenue. If we don't manage this correctly, if we set a target for example, to increase revenue, what's going to happen? Salespeople may end up playing the game of, let's just sell something regardless of profitability. Okay, let's solve that with a problem of, or with the idea of, let's put a target on gross margin. Okay, then what we're going to do is we're just going to sell the things with the highest gross margin, and we're going to ignore the things that are out there that might do different things. So we've got a problem where the salesperson or the person who's dealing with a customer isn't actually listening. They're just focused in on sell a particular product, whether someone wants it. Ironically, this sort of behavior leads to or less likelihood sometimes of people achieving certain things. So what can we do about that? Well, the better advice, the advice that we give, of course, is to make sure you've got clear outcomes. Yes, clear outcomes, the goals. I've got this measure that I want to improve, but we start measuring the right things. So rather than putting a target, okay, rather than just focusing in on just the target, the secret is clear leading metrics. So the very things that you need to do, the inputs that's going to achieve the output. That is going to be the thing that if you can focus more on, you're more likely to be able to achieve the results. But of course, that means one thing. That means that people need to know, you need to know if you're a workplace leader, what does a leading metric look like? One of the best things that a workplace could do, particularly right now, is to be able to teach people how to identify what a leading metric really is, what a leading bit of behavior is that's going to achieve the result. Some people might call them high leverage actions, high leverage behaviors, the thing which is going to give the biggest return on effort. Teaching people how to do that, the principles of cause and effect, is going to, dare I say, infinitely, certainly exponentially improve the results that are going to be achieved if someone doesn't understand this. So if this is a topic you're interested in or something that you think can benefit your workplace and you want some more advice and more information, get in touch with us, ogroup.com.au.